Question 1. In what ways does your media product use, develop or change forms and conventions of real media products? We made sure our final product matched and conformed to many conventions of thriller movies, particularly some with similar settings such as the movie Kidulthood or the TV show Top Boy. However, we were sure to break some conventions in an effort to make our media products more original. The very beginning of our product has a fast-paced action and music, as to match many other thriller films with a similar opening, such as Star Trek Into Darkness. As it was a crime thriller, we used appropriate, more urban props such as guns, pouches, and dark-colored clothes. Firearms were also proven to be popular among thriller films such as Pulp Fiction and Usual Suspects. The action scenes in these films relied heavily on firearms. In these films, the main characters are also shown to be wearing dark clothing to match the no-nonsense dark atmosphere and tone of the film. In this film, we chose to have the characters to be of a younger age, not only to appear more accessible to wider audiences, but to subvert conventions of typical thrillers, especially crime thrillers in which the protagonist is usually older. None of the cast was above the age of 17. We were sure to incorporate fast pace in the form of chase scenes and, as previously mentioned, firearms to make the action more interesting. We also had it set in an urban area at day, not only to show realism but to increase visibility of the fast pace and action. However, at the end of the opening we decided to have a darker setting for a mysterious vibe to suit the tone of what was taking place at the time of the video. Our opening drew some similarity to the aforementioned Kidulthood, both having similar aged characters living in a similar setting, involved in similar activities. Also, both characters conform to the typical hood rat teenager attitude and costume with baggy tracksuits. How does your media product represent particular social groups? Because of the familiar setting, similar age groups of characters, and typical use of more colloquial language, it is evident that the opening conforms to a certain target audience. Similar storylines and character archetypes have been displayed in popular media before, in the aforementioned Kidulthood and Top Boy, both popular with a rather wide range of audiences, but mostly adolescents and young adults living around London. I say London as the language used is very regional and particular to around that kind of area. Also, a typical trait of troubled teenagers is rashness or impatience. This is evidenced in our opening by the antagonist chasing the protagonist without inquiring what the situation may be or even contemplating the protagonist's reasons. We also included the age rating caution green screen at the beginning of our opening to make it clear that the content wasn't appropriate for those under the age of 13. However, parental guidance is an option. This suggests that the content is okay for some minors, but it would be better that the parent is consulted. To increase the authenticity, we also included the Warner Brothers splash art at the beginning of the final piece. The age rating is ideal as the questionnaire that we did showed the majority of the audience were adolescent, so it would make sense to focus efforts around that age group. It made sense to have a cast of around that age and also have the content catering to around that age. Despite the age rating being PG-13, our opening was premiered to an audience of 16 to 18 year olds and some older members of staff. This was ideal as they could point out any flaws or inappropriate content for our target age and audience. They were also able to give us in detail criticisms and tell us what went well, such as the varied shots and the good use of music. Also, it would have been ideal if we masked the gun, as it looks rather unrealistic in the final piece. What kind of media institution might distribute your media product and why? Despite how proud we are of our final product, the company that would want to help us distribute our media product would most likely be attempting to break new ground and take risks. A company familiar with this genre of film would most likely be able to pull this off. However, it doesn't necessarily have to be a major film producer. Films like these would not take a Hollywood budget to pull off, so a mini production company would perhaps be interested in investing in such a product. They would also be looking for quality, which between our editing, acting, shots and characterization, I believe our film has a lot of. It would most likely have to be a British company due to the nature of the film. The language and the humour would most likely cater to British audiences, perhaps on BBC, as many shows similar to this film have been aired, such as Top Boy. Who'd be the audience of your media product? Our target audience could potentially be anyone who enjoys thriller films. They contain many conventions of a thriller movie, such as chase scenes and action sequences. As previously mentioned, our target audience would be around 13 and above, most teenagers or young adults. As to be remotely realistic or engaging, it would have to contain some violence and a bit of foul language. How did you attract/address your audience? What have you learned about technologies from the process of constructing this product? Due to my prior experience with ICT, using things such as Photoshop and various video editing software was not an issue for me, although there were some things that I learned to do while making my final piece, such as muting specific sounds or cropping the picture. Also, I was not familiar with the Blogger social networking platform at first, but it quickly became easy to use. I've had no experience with blogs before, nor did I have any interest with it, but within the first week of using Blogger, I was able to use all software and I am able to do advanced things such as embed videos and prezzies. Lastly, I already possessed the camera and was able to use it with little to no difficulty. The tripod was not that difficult to use as we were given a demonstration on everything within the lesson. What have I learned? I've learned a lot since starting AS Media. First, we learned various shots and how they are effective in different scenarios, such as low angle shots to make the actor look bigger and more looming. I've also learned a lot to do with technology, as previously mentioned, to using Blogger and some more advanced functions on editing software. What skills have I gained? During the actual recording and getting on-the-job experience, I have learned to apply different shots to different settings, lightings and scenarios. I have also learned how to add images and text over a video and different effects such as blurring. Looking back at your preliminary task, what do you feel you have gained in the progression from it to the final product? The difference in quality between our preliminary task and our final product was great. This is evidenced by many things. The quality of our shots was much higher. Not only did we have a tripod in our possession, making shots less shaky and more stable, but we knew what went wrong before and we could improve upon it in our final product, such as us cutting the top of people's heads off, or the image being blurry. These were problems present within our preliminary task but absent from our final task. The quality of sound was also greatly increased. A problem that was evident in the preliminary task was that the voices were barely audible and not loud or clear enough. To prevent this in our final piece, we decided to record the unclear voices in post so that the audience would be able to understand any dialogue. The music was never a problem. With both the preliminary task and the final product, they fitted and were audible. However, this time we decided to make it quieter so that the voices came out on top. In our preliminary task, as we recorded inside school, we did not have any particular costumes. That's not to say the formal attire didn't fit the scenario and atmosphere. It did make sense with the plot of the short scene. Also, the big briefcase did prove quite effective. However, the final piece opening allowed us to change our attire and match the story and scenario, and we were able to get our hands on more props such as fake blood and a gun, which made it seem more engaging and interesting. The editing proved rather effective. The shots matched up nicely and the gun effects and the lighting it caused was very well done, courtesy of Yaksain. However, it would have been better if we had time to master the gun, as it looks very unrealistic and took away from the intensity of the scene. In our preliminary task, there was little to compare it to outside of making it black and white. The shots were done decently, but the shots of the final product were definitely more focused and done better. It looked more professional overall. The 180-degree rule was never an issue for either of the products, nor was continuity, so there is little to compare them to. This is my evaluation. Thank you for watching.